Hello, let's do another video here and let's talk about WordPress some more. And in the last few videos, this is actually growing into a long number of videos, but in the last half a dozen videos, I've built this WordPress theme, from scratch essentially, adding each little step along the way. And what I'd like to do now is I'd like to tackle the post. Okay, so the post here is made up of a couple elements. It's got the title, the content, and then it has some meta information like the date, the tags or categories, and the comments at the bottom, right? So what do we do with that, right? We want to arrange that stuff, and you can move it around and adjust it to be whatever you like. Let's do a couple things here. So where does that appear on our page? Well, if I go to my source code here and I find the loop, okay, here's the loop right here, the loop, right? And you'll see that this area inside the PHP tag here, this, if have posts and end while else, right? This is the loop, okay? So this is the block of code that gets repeated once for each post. Okay, so it's got a title, content, and then date, categories, comments. Let's look at it here. Title, content, date, category, comment number. Okay. And by default, I just, for the basic theme, I just put an H3, and then I used a couple paragraphs here to just give that just a tiny bit of formatting. But, we can do anything we want inside this area. So maybe what I'll do is I'll add a div here. And remember, any HTML tags that appear inside the loop, that means from here down to here, right? They must, if they open inside here, they have to close inside here also. Okay, and if there's any tags that open on the outside, they can't close inside here. They'll have to go all the way to the bottom, right? Or at least to the bottom of the loop right here, okay, after the end if. Okay, so what I think would be a good idea is that each post, like all of its content, be arranged inside an element, some kind of container. So I'm going to put a div in here. And, if you really want to get tricky with the HTML tags, article would actually be a really good tag here, right? I'm going to leave that out for clarity because there's a lot of extra markup you can throw in, but I'm just going to use the markup here that's going to affect our grid system. Okay, so that's what I'm focusing on. So I'm going to leave out the semantic marking, right, or markup, right? So anyway, so we got a div here, right? And that kind of blocks that in pretty good. And what I'd like to do is, let me actually move this comment here up to the top here. I think that'll be better for us. And what I'd like to do is I'd like this div to have some class names. And, you can give it a class name. What we don't want to do is we don't want to use any ID names here because ID names should only appear once per page. And if I use an ID inside the loop, there's a really good possibility the ID is going to be repeated more than once, okay? So class names always inside the loop. And you'll notice when I was doing this here, I didn't use any ID names at all. I used class names for everything. So that's kind of my habit is with HTML, I use class names exclusively, and then I use ID names only for JavaScript. Okay, so that's kind of my habit, and I actually really like doing that. It kind of works well for me. So so anyway, I got a class name here, and if you want, we could call this like post. Okay, there you go. So let's check that out. So I'll give that the name post, and then when I refresh this, we'll take a look at it in the inspector. Oh, there's Karen. She sent me a message there, but we'll just ignore that. And I'm going to go in here and get my inspector there. And you can see here's my grid container right there. That's the block in the middle of the page here. And when I open this up, you can see inside there, I've got the grid 100, which is the page links at the top here, and then I have the grid 75, which is where the loop is, right? So when I open this up, let's see what we got. Well, there's the beginning of the loop, and everything inside this block is repeated, right? And then I can see each of the repeated blocks has class post, right? So there's a div for the first post. There's the second post, the third post, and the fourth post, right? And so that's pretty good. I like this here. The post is the post class is kind of a good one for me. I know that that's a post, and I can style the stuff inside a post using this class name. This is now a parent element or an ancestor for anything that we find in here. So that makes a good hook for styling. But you know what? We can do better on the class names. Okay. This may seem a little confusing and overwhelming, but it's actually very useful to us in some situations. So it's kind of good to do this. What I'm going to do is, instead of using the class name here and just typing the class name in, I'm actually going to replace all that with a PHP tag like this. And inside, this is another of WordPress's template tags, and I'm going to replace that with the post class. Okay. So I just replace the entire class definition. Don't lose this little thing, because that kind of looks like the tag is closing, but it's not. We got to have this, right? Okay, because this one goes with the one at the very end, and then these two go with the post class in the middle, right? So anyway, so the post class, let's watch what happens when I add this. I'll save it, refresh it, and let's see, what do we got here? Oh yeah, there's my grid container, grid 75. And then inside here, notice that each post now has a huge list of classes. It's got, post 236 or 263, post, type post, status published, format standard, H entry, category, instructors, and then here's another one. It's got a bunch of classes on it. So what's happening here is that WordPress is generating a bunch of class names based on the meta information for this post. Like, it's including the ID number for the post. It's including the post type. It's including the category name for the post. So if I had other categories, those category names would appear here, and posts with different categories would show different categories. You can see on the second one here, it's got tags of evil and Sauron, because that's the post about Sauron. I don't know if you read the book, but he was the bad guy. But so you can see that this one down here has category spring show, right? So by using the post class, we can get extra class names to style stuff. And so that means, like, if we want to style posts that are tagged evil or Sauron, or posts that have category spring show on them and give them different styles, we can do that easily here, because WordPress will customize the class names for us. Okay. So there we go, right? So that kind of gets you started on styling there. And I'll talk more about this too. I'm going to just keep each of these videos pretty short, so so they don't, so you don't have to go through the whole thing, for an hour, right? But anyway, there you go. There's another quick, short introduction to WordPress.